Alright, I'm going to show you all how to remove the fire control group on your AKM pattern rifle. First, we're going to release the hammer. And next, we're going to take the safety, turn it all the way up, pull it out. And now on mine, I have this shepherd, I believe it's called shepherd's hook, something like that. This retainer here that holds both of those, and it's kept there by the safety. You might just have pins on yours on each separate, or you might have, a little clip pin, whatever you want to call it, on each hammer and trigger pin. So if you have that, you can just pull those out with needle nose and put them back on the same way. But on this one, you take out the safety, then you pull out this plate here. Next, we're gonna take these springs here, and we're gonna fold them up over the hammer to get them out of the way so we can take the trigger out. So pull that up, and we'll put that over that left edge of the hammer, and then we'll take the spring on the right, and we'll fold that behind the other spring, like that. Now we're going to take out this pin right here. It's pretty easy. It doesn't have any tension on it or anything. So you just kind of push and then until you can get a hold of it and pull that pin out. And now I'm going to put some pressure on my disconnector just to not lose the spring. So pull that pin out, and now your disconnector and your disconnector spring will come out. And now your trigger comes out too. So that's done with your trigger. Now we just have this pin right here, your hammer. So I'm going to take a cleaning rod. I'm going to set it on that, and I'm just going to punch it out. If it will go. Might need to wiggle it a little bit. Okay, maybe a lot of bit. Punch that out. That pin comes out, and then you're going to turn your hammer to the side. And be careful with these springs now that it's out, because it'll do that and hit you. So now your hammer's out, and now you're completely done. You have all this out, clean it, whatever you wanted to do, put a different trigger in. Now to put it all back together, it's just the opposite order, except I like to keep the springs like out like this, stick them in there, and turn the hammer, and kind of just wedge it in with the springs out. Seems to be easier. So now our spring is sitting in there like that, hole's not lined up. So we get our pin, we start it a little bit, and then we're gonna line up, we're gonna look through the side, we're gonna line up that hole, drop our pin through. Now come to this side, we're gonna line up our hole, push that pin all the way through, like that. Now that the hammer is in, these springs, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna grab them and pull them up here and hang them on the hammer again, like so. Now we're gonna take our trigger and see that there's a little indent at the back, and your disconnector spring is going to go in that indent. And so you want it to look like that. You want one hook backwards and one hook facing forwards. Make sure your spring stays in that gap. And we're going to set our trigger down in there while keeping a little pressure on the disconnector. Now we can come to this side, line up our holes. So now I have one lined up, and so now I just need to get the disconnector. So there we go. Disconnector's lined up, then through the other side of the trigger. And now back here, I can use the trigger, aim that right there. and press that through. So now our trigger's in. And just to check, so we want to make sure, you want to make sure one thing is your disconnector is pushed over to the left side of the trigger. Otherwise your safety is not going to work. Now that we have the trigger in, we're going to take these springs, take the one on the right first, and drop it down and set it on that little ledge right there, like that. Then we're going to take the other one and do the same thing on the other side. Make sure our trigger pin doesn't pop out like it just did. And then, no, take this one, make sure you go outside. Make sure you go on the outside of that hook for the trigger, and then set it down there. Same way as the other side. So now everything's back together like that. You got your pins in. Now you're going to want to grab your retainer or your clips or whatever you're using and drop that back in. Hook that back on it. Make sure both those pins are in all the way. Hook it back on, and when it's correct, it should line up with the hole for the safety right there, like that. Now we're going to put the safety back in. Like that. Make sure it goes all the way down. Okay, so now I'm going to do a check just to make sure. Put it together all right. So we're going to start with it off, cock the hammer, and I'm going to keep my thumb here so it doesn't hit this bar, but pull the trigger, it works, and then push back down while still holding the trigger, and then so my trigger reset works, and then I'm going to put it on safe, and it works. So there you go.